Today I'm going to be talking about two documentaries that I've watched. Both are on Netflix. One's called Fed Up, which in my opinion is about sugar and the dangers of sugar being in your diet. And the other is about, it's called What the Health, and that's about pretty much not eating anything on the planet, again in my opinion. I have took notes, so will be throwing my head down every now and again just to make sure I've got all my facts straight. I'm going to start off by talking about Fed Up. On Fed Up, they show an advert that was put out by Coca-Cola, where it says weight comes down to calories in and calories out, and they actually quoted it doesn't matter where your calories come from. Now obviously I'm just going to touch on that and say 100% it does matter where your calories come from. Appreciated, you could argue that yeah, it is calories in and calories out. But what a lot of people will not take into consideration when they are talking about calories in and calories out is they'll say, oh yeah, I've ate this today, I've ate that today, I've ate the other today. Now I need to go and burn off that amount of calories if I want to lose weight, or burn off more than that amount of calories if I want to lose weight. What people don't take into consideration is the fact that you need to take in a certain amount of calories just for your body to operate daily. So there's a certain amount of calories that you need to take in. I'm not going to try and get scientific and say all the scientific words, because the whole point of me doing this is to put things into layman's terms, so to speak. I'll probably be using more analogies and saying how compare this to that and whatever, than throwing big words together, because there's no point in throwing big words together, because if people don't particularly understand it, scientists don't know what I'm talking about anyway, so if people don't particularly understand it, then I might as well make it easier for everybody, including myself. Okay, so basically what they're talking about is calories in and calories out, and they're saying that it doesn't matter how much comes in and how much goes out. So yeah, in my opinion, well, I know for a fact your body needs to take so many calories in. If you were to just sit on the couch and you were to take in, say for argument's sake, it was 18,000 calories at your rest, that 1800, sorry, Jesus Christ, 18,000, that 1800 calories is what your body would need just to maintain where you're at if you were just relaxing. Okay, so when you'll see people that'll say, oh yeah, I want to lose weight, I would normally eat say 2,000 calories a day and I don't train much, I'm going to drop it to 1,500 calories a day and I'm going to train like an absolute madman or mad woman. They're not taking into consideration the fact that the increase in the intensity and the increase in the calorie burning, but they're also decreasing what they're putting in. You wouldn't, for argument's sake, here to go with one of my analogies, you wouldn't for argument's sake be able to say, I pour £30 in petrol in my car. So let's use fuel as food as fuel, and petrol obviously as fuel for your car, so you're the car. So if you're taking in, you're putting £30 in petrol in your car and you drive to Manchester once a week, you can't then say, I'm going to start driving twice a week and we're only going to put £20 in my tank, because you'll just break down. Your car will just break down. And it's the same obviously within reason with your body. Don't get me wrong, there'll be a level and there'll be a certain amount of time where your body will eat into fats to make up for the amount of energy that you haven't put in. But if you continue with that, you will also then eat into muscle. Okay, so that's the first point. Also, when they talk about it doesn't matter what the calories are that are coming in, again, of course it does matter what the calories are that are coming in. It's easy to say I lost weight on 1,000 calories a day. I was having 3 Mars bars. Yeah, that's fine, you can eat 3 Mars bars and you will lose weight. Are you going to be healthy? No. Are you going to lose weight in a healthy way? No, most certainly not. So the calories that you take in will of course determine whether you lose weight properly or not. You could take in a load of sugar and your body will naturally turn that sugar into fat, and that process can be slowed down or speeded up depending on whether it goes in with fibre or not. So say for argument's sake, if we're talking about a bowl of cereal or whatever, something which is mostly sugar coated and quite low in fibre, when that goes into your body, or when you take in something really sugary, whether it be call it a bag of sweets, you'll take in that, which is, oh yeah, here's me H coming in. And then if she'll come in and say hello, she probably won't. You'll take in that amount of sugar and it'll go straight into your body and your body will recognise I'm taking in pure sugar here. Your pancreas will release a hormone which is called insulin, and insulin will take all of that sugar and will turn it into fat. As soon as that gets turned into fat, that's then to be used as energy. And let's be honest, if you're the type of person who sits on the couch eating sweets, the chances are you're not going to need to turn that into energy. Just 1 second. H.E., you going to come in and say hello? Told you she wouldn't. Not even a wave. Put your hand through and wave. Wave to the camera. You're nasty. Right, okay. So yeah, so basically, your body will then do it that way, and it will turn it straight. Insulin will come along, turn it straight into fat, and your body will be expecting to use that fat. But the chances are, if you sat eating sweets, you're not about to go to the gym. Oh, I thought the door was getting pushed open then. It is. What is it? No, must just be walking upstairs. So yeah, whereas take that in with fibre, and it will take a whole different route through your digestive system. You won't have the same insulin reaction. You therefore won't store as much of it as fat. And so, say for argument's sake, if we were to talk about processed piece of white bread or white rice or something processed, when that goes in, excuse me, because it hasn't got your like your complex carbohydrates to go in and slow down the digestive system. So say because you're not having sugars that are in a sweet potato, excuse me, that will have a similar reaction. Whereas if you weren't to do it that way and you were to take in some sweet potato or some whole grains of some sort with the sugar, and I don't mean a packet of sweets and a piece of brown bread, I just mean the sugar that's in the brown bread, it will take a different route through your digestive system, and you won't have the same reaction from your insulin, okay? So your body will react differently to different things, and your body will also react differently to different foods at different times of the day. So I could have, for argument's sake, or you'll hear of a lot of bodybuilders, or you may have heard of a lot of bodybuilders that will have like jelly babies straight after a workout because they want the fast sugars, because they want an insulin like spike to flush and flood blood to the muscles, which is obviously carrying nutrients. They wouldn't, however, do that whilst they were sat on the couch, because all that will then do is convert to sugar. Body will then go, oh, we're working here, what are we going to do? And your body reacts to different things. Well, your body can react to the same thing differently at different times, is my point what I'm getting across. Okay. So yeah, so another thing now where I'm going to talk about sugars is Coca-Cola again. With Coca-Cola and companies that are involved with, I suppose, giving food that isn't particularly good for you, will work with companies or fund companies and associations to support what they're doing, and then in turn they will look not as much of the villain, I suppose. So much so that from what I've seen on this documentary, Coca were working with an association. It was called American Academy of Family Physicians, and basically they started working with them to say, support us and support Coca-Cola. We're going to give X amount of money into the association, and 20 of the doctors that worked for the association actually publicly give the notice in and said we're leaving because they weren't prepared to stand by something that was a load of nonsense. Obviously the person at the top who was taking in all the money from Coca-Cola was going to say, yeah, okay, that's great, I'll work with that, because that seems like a good idea to them because they're making money. It then goes on to a family, and this family is sat there, and she talks about the fact that her son eats the way he does. Her son's like 13 and he's like majorly overweight, and she talks about the fact that eating healthy is too expensive. Now I don't know whether you've seen any of my other videos, but I've got a video where I've got 3 solid meals that you can eat a day, which are healthy at a cost of £1.77 a day. Okay, if you haven't seen it, obviously go back and watch it. So I don't believe that for 1 minute that that's the case, but this kid was basically going in to see his doctor because he was considered morbidly obese, right? Okay, I'm going to talk now about obesity, and about type 2 diabetes. Okay, in 1980, well, this is in America, this study, so again I can't say for over here, but in 1980 in America there was 0 children with type 2 diabetes. Okay, by 2010 there was 57,638 children with type 2 diabetes. Okay, now when you look at, well, I'll say certain countries or certain places and obesity rates are much higher. If you look at where it is with children, and you look at families that tend to have bigger children, the way it tends to work with things like that is basically, as a child you're born and you've got a set amount of fat cells, okay? Not everybody's born with the exact same amount, but you're born with a set amount, and you carry them fat cells from a child through into an adult, okay? Now, if as a child you become morbidly obese, or you obviously go towards the obese scale, your body will naturally fill those fat cells. I don't know why I do this, but I kind of picture them like, I don't know if you've seen Alien, and you have them pods and the thing comes out the middle, but I picture them like that, okay? And they fill with fat. And then as a child, if all your fat cells are full, your body will produce more fat cells to fill with more fat, okay? Now, even as you lose weight, the fat cells will empty of fat, but they will remain there, okay? Now, the problem is, as a child, you can increase the amount of fat cells that you have. However, as an adult, you can't decrease the amount of fat cells that you have. So if you start off as a child overweight, and your body generates more or produces more fat cells, you'll then take that amount of fat cells into being an adult, okay? So then as an adult, you'll find it more difficult to lose weight because you've got more fat cells to fill with fat, and obviously to empty and to refill just as easily. So that's why a lot of people who struggle with the weight as a child will struggle with the weight as an adult, okay? It goes on to talk about like sauces and saying low fat sauces. The one thing I will say about low fat sauces is just have a little look at the sugar content, because what they'll do a lot of the time, they'll reduce the amount of fat that's in there. I stay away anyway from fat free because of what sort of things they've got to put in there to make it still taste good if it's totally fat free. So reduced fat I do tend to steer towards, although I have had a conversation with somebody about having full fat all the time. But yeah, I tend to steer towards reduced fat, but then you've also got to look at the fact that they will then put more sugar in to increase the taste, and more salt and whatever else. So although you may be taking in less fat, if you're taking in more sugar, depending on how you're eating it and what it actually is, it may be having the same effect, because obviously your sugar's going, the added sugar's going to go in, insulin's going to kick in, it's going to store it as fat anyway. So yeah, so just have a little look at your sources. Going down with, say for argument's sake, fruit. If you were to eat a piece of fruit, there's obviously a lot of fibre in the fruit. So although there's sugars in there, natural sugars in there, even natural sugars on their own, say for argument's sake, if you were to get a fruit juice, okay, there's no fibre left in it, it's just a fruit juice. You might as well be drinking like a Sprite or a Coke or whatever, because all you're taking in is the sugar, and it's going to do the exact same thing without the fibre as it would if it was, like I say, a bottle of Coke or whatever. That's not me promoting having Coke instead of fruit juices. It's just me saying to be wary even of fruit juices. There's then a Hispanic family on there, and they start off by talking about the fact that it's actually the son, and he says, I'll do whatever I can. He's again massively overweight, and he talks about the fact that he wants to lose weight, but he struggles because every time he loses a little bit, he puts more on. In the background of the video, by the way, there's like 3 cases of Diet Coke. There's not a bottle of water to be seen, and sat next to him is an exercise bike which looks like it was made in the 40s, and it's got about 6 inches of dust on it. So the fact that he's sat in the armchair and not on the bike isn't helping him. But the main people that aren't helping him, in my opinion, or the main cause, is his family. Now, his mum and dad are both sat there, also both, in my opinion, overweight. And mum is saying, in a Hispanic family, being big is considered healthy and beautiful. And the dad goes on to say, through his generations, his grandma put a big plate of food together, and it was polite to sit and finish your plate. Yeah, that's fine, it is polite to sit and finish your plate if it's half decent food, but if you get given a pile of junk, you're not doing anyone a favour by finishing it. So with that alone, obviously he is a child, he doesn't determine what he eats, his parents determine what he eats, and a lot of the time, dare I say it, you'll look at a child who is overweight and you look to his parents, and his parents also tend to be overweight. They go on about, what did I put down here? Oh, sorry, yeah. Dad goes on about his control or lack of control over his son's diet. Now, in all fairness, he says something along the lines of, he goes to school, he can eat Twinkies, I think he says, he can eat this, he can eat that, he can eat the other. His brother buys him snacks whilst he's out, so that might be the case, but say for argument's sake, if he's eating junk food at school, junk food whilst he's playing out with his friends, and junk food in the house, you eliminate one of them three and you're at least helping the cause. So if they were to feed him better food at home, smaller portions at home, if he was to take in smaller portions, his stomach naturally would shrink because it isn't getting the full, well, what it's been getting all the while, and naturally his stomach would shrink, and he then, when he was given a bigger portion, wouldn't be able to finish it because he was too full. Now the problem is with sugars, when you have an insulin spike, if he's having Twinkies and whatever else that's full of sugar, when you have an insulin spike, insulin comes along and obviously converts to sugar. Too much insulin in your body will almost trick your brain into not realising that you've had enough to eat. So constantly, after you'll have like something sugary, within no time you feel hungry again, and you're actually not, but the receptors in your brain have been like blocked by the amount of insulin that's in your body. So yeah, you will feel hungry and you then turn and you either feel lethargic, you feel a little bit crappy, and you think, I need something sugary, and then it's that process over and over and over. So for his dad to sit there and say, there's nothing I can do, it's out of my hands, is a load of nonsense. For starters, you can replace the Diet Cokes with waters, and for seconds you can look at A, what you're putting on his plate, and B, the size of his portions. Okay, again, another one that I've seen, I'm just going to rant a little bit, another one that I've seen, a girl, I think she was 14 or 15 years of age, it was on This Morning or whatever it was, GMTV, and she was applying for or going in because she wanted the gastric band. Okay, now they'd done a quick little snippet of her at home. She sat in a chair, she's almost not able to get out the chair, and her mum comes over and says, oh yeah, I need this, she needs that, she needs the other, and she puts a plate on her lap, and on that plate is 2 burgers and a mountain of chips. Now, I'm not being funny or nothing, what's stopping her from giving her 1 burger and some chips, or a burger and some salad? Because if she eats what she can eat and then is still hungry and wants more food, and mum says there isn't anything in, if you like we can walk to the shop, blah blah, at least she's getting that little bit of exercise in between. But she doesn't, she sits there and she continues to feed her, and you look at mum, and mum is just as big, and unfortunately, and I'm not saying that's mum's choice to keep her fat, but a lot of the time that's down to people's knowledge. Okay, so Dolmio Sauce actually advertises, I think it was in the Mirror or the Echo website, and Dolmio Sauce is actually advertised to not be eaten more than once a week. Now, as far as you're aware, you could be saying, oh yeah, we made spaghetti bolognese, we used wholemeal pasta, we did this, we did that, we did the other, but you're using this sauce, you can't have it more than once a week because they know what's in it, and it's just, it's madness. But unfortunately, we're almost tricked into thinking or believing what is and what isn't healthy. Okay, so I'm going to finish on, I think it was this, yeah, it was, I'm going to finish on for the Fed Up documentary anyway. Do you know what I'm going to do? This is 18 minutes long. I'm going to do this in 2 stages. So I'm going to do this as a Fed Up one about sugars, and then I'm going to do the What the Health one, because that was a load of nonsense as well. So I'm going to do that one as well. So this one is obviously Fed Up. So I'm going to finish on this. So a document was published in 2002. It was called TRS 916, right? And it was the World Health Organization, right? And they come together to say that sugar is a major cause, if not the main reason, for obesity, right? It says scientists recommend that your diet should take in should consist of no more than 10% sugar, right? Okay. The company then basically told WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and they were going to publish that this is the case and it needs to only be 10%, right? Okay. The people who are involved, obviously, well, the sugar people came along and they fund, or they at least part fund and give donations and stuff into the World Health Organization. They need to stay rich. Obviously, they need sugar to be in people's diets because that keeps them going. And they actually came across, and I can't think what the guy's name was called, but they came across and they said that they wanted it to remain as up to 25% of your diet is safe if it's containing sugar, right? And they wanted it to remain at that. And they basically said to them that if they didn't delete and remove and never publish this article saying that it has to be 10% or under, that they would withhold the £406 million contribution that they were given to the World Health Organization. So like the government and obviously everyone, everything bigger has come across and basically said what's what's better, money or people's health. And they had the choice at that point to say we don't want £406 million because £406 million is not worth the life and the health costs, I suppose, on people. But they didn't. Instead, they didn't publish it, and it remained at least as it was. And obviously, the sugar companies stayed where they were, rich. So, what I'll say about sugars, I'm going to speak more about the other one in a second. So, and that'll be a second video. But what I'll say about sugars is, look at your sugar content and look at where you can address it and look at what you can change, and think about how you take your sugars in. If you think, oh yeah, I have juices and I do them naturally at home, I put all my own fruit in and I'm just left with a big pile of pulp and I just drink the juice, you'd be better making a smoothie. Excuse me, you'd be better making a smoothie, because then at least you're taking the fibre from the food in with it. Now, in all fairness, you'd be better eating the fruit whole, purely because obviously eating something whole in its more natural raw state, as I've spoken about in other videos, will challenge your digestive system and your body will burn calories digesting like an apple or whatever, rather than it just being a juice that you drink. So as a smoothie, it's better than a juice, but really, if you could, it's better to eat your fruit in its most natural state. And then look at sugars in your meals. Okay, so processed food is something I'm going to talk about in the next one, but processed food is a massive one for sugars. So look at what foods you are taking in. Obviously, if you can, limit your processed foods as much as possible, and then have a little look into what sugars not necessarily what sugars you can take, but in what context you take your sugar in. So whether you're taking sugar in with fibre or not, with complex carbohydrates or with white rice, white bread, processed foods. Okay, I think, to be honest with you, that pretty much covers it. The next video, I'm going to do them both pretty much at the same time, so they'll both be back to back. But yeah, this is the sugar one, and this is basically my eye-opener to the damage that sugar can do. Now, the funny thing is, in my next video on What the Health, they talk about the fact that sugar has nothing to do with obesity. So again, controversy, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that.